We've gotten up. We're starting to really believe God now. We're reading the Word. We've taken baby steps towards doing what God has called us to do. We're 1 day sober. We're 2 days sober. We're 3 days sober. We're making our way back to the altar and the feet of God because we want to show up. We've proclaimed it. We know that it's the God choice. We know that this is what God has created. He's created you to be more than a drug addict. He's created you to be more than a stripper. He's created you to be more than someone who settles for less. We know it. We've gotten up. Now we're one step in front of the other, trying to show up at the feet of Christ. One of the hardest parts of our walk. You know what God has done for you. You chose him before and it worked. You're afraid of what choosing him now will look like. It may be unfamiliar. I don't know what he's calling me to do. I surrender all. I know the song, but when I truly surrender all, my ego, my pride, my resume, my credentials, the things that you think you've done on your own, my money, my relationships, my marriage, my children, we're afraid that we may lose it. The things that we've held on to for identification. The things that we've held on to because we can control them. When we surrender to God, we surrender control. We've got to wake up. We've got to get up. And we've got to show up. Someone in here thinks that they have disqualified themselves from the blessings of God. You've been so mired in the plenty and the power and the pleasure that you don't think you're worthy of what God has for you. You don't think you could earn God's blessings. You think God has given you 3 chances already? I can't earn God's blessings again. But when you turn from the power, the plenty, and the pleasure, and glance at the priceless, see what God has for you, you can put no price on. What God has for you, you could never earn anyways. What God has for you, he's given in spite of you. What God has for you is priceless. You could never pay for a peace that surpasses all understanding. You could never buy a joy that the world didn't give you and the world didn't take away. You could never have predicted the people that God put in your life to love you. I don't want the power, the pleasure, and the plenty without the priceless. When Elijah met the widow of Zarephath, and she had nothing but her child, the single mother, and flour and a little oil, just enough to make one small cake. Elijah comes as the embodiment of God in the Old Testament, and he says to her, make up that cake and give it to me. When we choose God, sometimes that's the choice we have to make. Give you my last bit of bread, my baby hasn't eaten. Choose you first, God? I don't understand. It makes no sense. Seek you above everybody, above everything. God, you know how hard I've worked to get to this place, but you've asked me to choose you first. So she whips up the flour and the oil and makes the cake and gives it to Elijah. She gives it to Elijah, and Elijah then shows her blessing. She now has flour that never runs out. She now has oil that never runs dry. Sounds wonderful, right? She gets the plenty, but here's the priceless. Her son dies. Here's the priceless with God. Her baby dies. Elijah takes her upstairs and lays on the boy and petitions before God. And the boy's life is back. That's the priceless. When you seek God first, yes, he'll give you plenty. Yes, he'll help you get your finances right. Yes, he'll help you get your household right. But see, that's where prosperity preaching ends and is distorted. Because the priceless gifts of God, anyone can find a way to earn money. But to bring your baby back to life, no amount of money can pay for that. That's God's word for you this morning. When you choose God first, the impossible happens. When you choose God first, you lay the groundwork for God to do something you could have never imagined. When you choose God first, exceedingly and abundantly above all that you could ask or think happens.